like and subscribe. Now, what was the highest waste of money that you don't regret? Just shy of $20,000 to go to Antarctica traveling solo. Small cruise ship, more than I've spent on every other vacation I've taken combined. Was one of the best trips of my life. It also gave me enough space and clarity to realize how toxic my ex was to me so that I could find the strength to leave not long after I got back. I'll always want to go back to Antarctica. The inner peace I found there changed my life. A quick 7-day trip to Maui in February a couple years ago with one of my teenage daughters, who happened to be free the same week I had off. Work was grinding me down and I needed a break. My wife and the rest of the family couldn't go. They were working or in school. The tickets were expensive, $850 each for bare bones economy narrow rock hard seats. It was a 12-hour flight that was packed to the brim. I was getting bed sores by the time we arrived. We rented snorkeling gear and a car, and spent every day from dawn to dusk snorkeling, sitting on the beaches and hiking in the mountains. We did the Hana Road, the 7 sacred pools and the Helical Volcano National Park at sunset, and took tons of photos. We ate spam musubi for breakfast, poke and salmon noodles for lunch and lokomoko for supper. Slept like babies with the windows open wide in the cool nighttime breezes. The best way to blow $5,000 ever. So much what I needed at that point in my life. I spent $300 on a mule, an actual living, 4-hoofed, long-eared mule. We raise cattle, so a protection mule was a good excuse. But, really, I just fell in love with him. He's huge and sassy. He'll steal your hat and run away. He's got a ninja mode where he can sneak up on you, just to breathe down your neck or startle you. He does keep the coyotes away. However, he has proved himself priceless because he eats thistle. When we got the lease on the land for our cattle, the pastures had been neglected and were in bad shape. Thistle is a spiky plant that spreads across the pasture, choking out grasses. Cows won't eat it. It's really hard to get rid of. To our surprise, the mule cleared out nearly all the thistle in a matter of months. He would dig the flowers out of the center. He saved us an enormous amount of money and labor. We were able to avoid using chemical weed killers, which we really didn't want to do. Probably the best investment in our whole cattle raising experience. I love this one. Thistle is a real moth affair. My litter robot. Yes, I spent $600 on a cat litter, but my house never smells. I don't have to scoop litter, and I only have to empty the drawer once a week. Definitely worth it to me. We just got one this year. I have 4 cats, 1 leg and a bad back, so bending over to scoop is not comfortable. I love that litter box. I spent too much money on a big treadmill for a very small apartment, but I've ran 15-25 kilometers on it every week for the past several years and it's been incredibly helpful both physically and mentally. Your downstairs neighbor's mental health is swiftly deteriorating. He should buy a treadmill. I've heard they are great. Artwork. Can I always afford it? No. But my walls are full of original, 90% local art. They make me happy to look at. I'm sure I made the artist happy too. I went to a Renaissance fair with my husband and some friends. It was his first time, and he's a pretty introverted person. So while he has fun watching everyone else dress up and act all goofy and old to me, he doesn't really participate. When we went to buy our first beer, the wench tried to sell him on one of those big mugs that looks like it's carved out of wood but it's just plastic. It cost $100. Yes, you get free refills. But we were not planning on drinking $100 worth of beer that day. I could tell by the look on his face that he wanted it. He looked like a little kid at Disney World. Without thinking, I whipped out my credit card and dropped $100 on a shitty plastic mug. All day, he walked around proudly with his mug. He even took some big gulps and cheered huzzah once or twice. This might not seem like much, but for my quiet, gentle giant, it is huge. I manage the finances in our relationship and I am constantly cracking down on wasteful spending. So I think we were both amazed I made such a dumb purchase. 4 years later, we still have that mug. He gets a big grin every time he sees it and teases me about my irresponsible impulse. And every time I see it, I just think about how much I love that big galoot. Board games. They are expensive, but they bring much joy. My couch. I moved out of my mom's house last year, 2019, so no COVID, and I always wanted a good couch. I tested so much. I went to so many furniture stores, looked at so many different models, and then choose mine. It's actually from IKEA. 3 seats and long enough to let someone sleep on it. In a grey, but I saw they were also having a black cover, so I am thinking about getting that one. Extremely comfortable. I wanted a couch where you could chill out and love how fluffy it is without losing the ability to sit on it. In some couches you are not able to lean on the back and still have a straight back. You can sit on the backboard and the armrests. They are flat, so you can also put a cup of tea on them. It's also not too low, so you don't feel like sitting on the ground, which I do strangely often compared to my love for this couch. But you can let yourself fall onto that damn thing. It also looks easy and simple, so I don't want the suggestion of someone who tried a lot of couches and happens to be me then buy the Vimmel couch from IKEA. $800 for a front seat helicopter tour of Kauai for me and my wife. Totally worth it. I did the same, but on the big island. Worth every penny. I'll never forget it. GE Opal Nugget Ice Maker. Dank thing costs more than my car payment, but man oh man, I love Nugget Ice and I use it the heck out of it every day. I can't believe I'm going to spend defying $500 on an ice machine because of this post. How could you? Stax headphones. About $800 in 1987, but I still listen to them and they are unbelievably good. Spending hundreds of euros on broken musical instruments because they were pretty. I have since bought spare parts and started repairing them. I found my destiny. What do you plan to do with them? Some of them I will sell. Some I will keep. Currently I own 4 reed organs, 2 electronic organs, an Indian harmonium and a sitar, and these are only the ones that needed repair. Currently I plan to keep one of the reed organs, the sitar and the Indian harmonium, because I love to play those the most and they're hard to get for a reasonable price since reed organs are dying out and don't get much love anymore. I took it upon myself to save as many as possible and give them into good hands, where they are actually appreciated, and the repair process is just so much fun. Not so sure about the electronic organ. I don't know what's wrong with it, and I have too much stuff on my hands to figure it out. I will try a few things. If they don't work I might just throw it out. Electronic organs are incredibly common and I can easily get another one for free if I ask the right people. I've been a fat guy all my life, like, really fat. Dressing comfortably was always my preference because being stylish just isn't an option at my size. This was always a source of anxiety at any social event that required dressing up. When I realized I had 4 weddings of close friends all coming up within the year, I decided to bite the bullet and get some decent formal clothes. I spent $800 on a suit jacket, $250 on 2 pairs of dress pants, a little over $300 for 3 shirts and 3 silk ties that were between $70 and $100 each. I stood for all my measurements and had everything tailored to my exact specifications. Did a fitting and had a second round of alterations on the pants so they actually looked decent, even though I wore them under my gut. People were floored when I showed up to the first wedding. I received so many compliments and actual double takes. Being introduced to new people felt completely different. I felt impressive. Some of those weddings were the best times of my life and it was due, in no small part, to how those clothes looked and made me feel. Some of those friends have big pictures from their weddings hanging on their walls, and I don't cringe in embarrassment when I see myself in them. Those clothes cost more than I have ever spent on clothing in any 10-year period, and they were worth every penny. Being a big guy myself, I've thought about doing this, but I've always been too cheap. Now I want to do it. Thank you for sharing. I like this story so much. I'm glad I hung around reading comments until I got to yours. I hope you have many more days where you feel as comfortable in your own skin as you did during those weddings. Thanks you guys. You're the best. $120 for a towel heater. I will never dry off with a cold towel again. Huh. Didn't expect to need one, but now I do. $60 at Costco. Fun. Finally found the motorcycle I wanted years ago but could not get. It was not running. But after around dumping $3,500 into it and doing a full frame up restoration and custom job on it, I have the bike I wanted years ago. But better. Yes, I did everything myself. Full paint job, tank frame, fenders, everything. I also did a full engine rebuild, remade the wiring harness. Everything was all done in-house. so I put a touch over 3k into a bike that is only worth about $1,500 on a good day, but hell, it is mine and I built it. Hard to put a price on something like that. I've put thousands into cars I drive around, 100% all my own work. Never paid more than 1k to buy the cars, yet driving a production car I can afford is so depressing compared to my bills. Cheers to the joy you built. Lego Death Star. Word. I got it when Amazon accidentally listed it for $125 for like 13 minutes one morning at 6 AM. He probably though it was a worthless moon. That and my Harry Potter 6k pieces castle. Those things are so well made, it's incredible. You gotta build one to believe. I got into a stupid fight with my brother, so I found a game he had pledged on Kickstarter, Space Haven, and saw that for $360 I could write a pre-made character bio that would randomly show up, so I pledged it and wrote a character bio with his name and made him a flaming a-hole. I have never played this game and don't want to. Has he got the game yet? Honestly, if my sibling paid to immortalize me in a game, even as an a-hole, I'd be tickled. I spent $3,000 for my wife to meet the Backstreet Boys and get front row seats. It is the best thing that has ever happened to her, and the smile on her face after the show and look of pure bliss in someone who suffers often from anxiety was worth every cent. Dining at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Milan. We had an 18-course meal with wine pairings for like $400 or so. I used to scoff at spending that sort of money on meals. Got convinced to try it one time and loved it. Now, every couple years we try to find something big like that to do. It really is amazing what top tier chefs can do to food. The extra I pay in rent for a water view. Completely worth it. Back in 2017 my family went on a road trip to Minnesota to visit my nana shortly before she passed. During our stay me and my little sister went to the Mall of America and bought whatever the F we wanted. Big ice cream cones, Lego store souvenirs, tickets to the aquarium, fare for every indoor amusement park ride, a doll from the American Girl store, and eating an expensive lunch in the store with your new doll sitting at the table with us. F yeah little sis, it's all yours. I dropped over $300 in that one mall trip, but damn it was one of our best shopping days ever. We still talk about it to this day. You're lucky you got away so cheaply. You can spend $300 at the Lego store with your eyes closed and one hand tied behind your back. Even more if you accidentally back into the giant Lego mech suit sculpture, which crushes a young boy whose parents sue you for, let's be honest, way more than the boy was ever worth in the first place. When I was younger I came into a sum of about $15k. I wasn't very careful with the money, and other than putting $5k down on car, I blew the money here and there, but what I put the largest amounts toward were friends in need. I paid one friend's power bill just before it got shut off. I helped another friend keep her water on. I never could keep my hands on money for long, but I don't regret having wasted it helping friends. €600 for an hour of laps, 3 of 20 minutes each, around the Nürburgring in Germany. It was open in the off season and there wasn't a single other car near me the whole time. 10/10, one of the most thrilling experiences of my life. I'm buying this for my so for our honeymoon when we get married, and I'm so excited to see his reaction. Don't forget to get special ring insurance. It's crippling to pay if you hit any Armco. Remember to that your car insurance will almost undoubtedly exclude one-way circular toll roads. That is, the Nürburgring. So be very, very careful. Due to poor insulation and distance from the water heater, my shower is never properly warm in winter. I just bought a single endpoint tankless water heater for just my shower. Best $150 I ever spent. Could I really afford it? No. Did I need it? No. Do I love it? You bet your sweet bippy I do. Didn't know this was a thing. I hate that my shower gets cold after like 5 minutes. Looked a few up and this seems a bit more complicated, and would probably need a pro to install. I want this. Water heater coils need to be replaced every few years. Might want to check that first. The summer after graduating high school, I won a decent amount of money playing online poker. Since I wasn't going off to college and all of my friends were, I decided to buy them all ridiculous going away gifts. A carpet, mailbox, toilet seat etc. were among the gifts. The most expensive and ridiculous gift I bought on a whim was a massive wheel of cheese. Somewhere between $200-300. Little did I know at the time that cheese wheel would set off a yearly event called Cheesy Jiving, where our entire, much larger now with spouses and kids, friend group gets together to celebrate and partake in cheesy goodness. This year was our 17th. Unfortunately all virtual due to COVID, and I genuinely hope it never ends. This is great. Just bought a treadmill. There is a perfectly good street outside I could run on. Or I could pay for a gym membership for years and years. But now I can get a run in during my daughter's nap time. Or when it's cold. Or when I only have 30 minutes free and driving to and from the gym would eat up half of my time. I certainly could have made it work without this expense. But I really love it. I got $27K and spent it on a solo cross-country road trip that led to me moving on the complete opposite side of the country from everyone I've ever known. I was in a dark place in my head. The original plan was to find a nice place to end my story, but the trip itself helped me reconsider, so absolutely no regrets to speak of. Dyson blow dryer. It's worth every penny. I have long hair down to my waist. It only takes me about 3 minutes to dry it. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, a year after my dad died unexpectedly from cancer, I went to the animal aid thrift shop, bought a bunch of odd dishes, put down a drop cloth, and threw them at my house while screaming bloody murder. I don't regret 1 second of that temper tantrum or one dime I spent to make it happen. I eventually made a couple of beautiful mosaics out of the pieces, and my mom is 6 months cancer free. Travel. I've never regretted spending money on travel. Those are some of my favorite memories. I can't wait to be able to travel again. Same. I spent money I didn't have taking trips in college and blown what should have been my savings as an adult. 13 countries down. Don't regret a single one. My only regrets are the trips I didn't take. A good buddy invited me on a trip to Africa too. Among other things, climb Kilimanjaro. I declined BC, my budget was tight. He wound up passing unexpectedly a year or two later and I still regret not experiencing that with him. Another regret is the beginning of 2020 when my wife went to Guatemala and El Salvador for work. Originally I was planning to go down and meet her for a long weekend, but I didn't because I wanted to save up for a trip later in spring. Then COVID hit the world. Now I'm wishing I took that trip when I had the chance. Exactly 1 year ago I got my private pilot license. So much money went into it, and now it costs a lot of money to keep it, by flying. I don't regret it at all. Very cool feeling to go flying. I bought my own tuxedo. It's 1001. 200 minutes by the time you get good shoes, shirt, bow tie, etc for it. I hardly wear it, but goddamn do I look good in it compared to a rental. I also spent $20 on a mustard yellow hat that has big cheese written in red stitching on it, only busted out for the really big occasions. I bet 2 50-year-old dudes $200 each that they wouldn't kiss each other in a bar, in a deeply red, Midwestern town. And yes, they did it for 60 seconds. Little did you know, they'd both been secretly waiting almost 50 years to do that. I think I spent around $1,000 on gifts over the last holiday season, including Secret Santa stuff on Imgur. Last year I got a really well-paying job and I'm finally glad to be able to give back to people. I bought the $350 Lego Ghostbusters Firehouse 5 years ago. I was a huge Lego kid in the 1980s and loved Ghostbusters. When they announced the set I told my wife that I was buying it. Ridiculous expense be damned. It is set up in my home office and will never come down. Pick for those who are asking. Yes, it is dusty. We just had work done that made a mess. They have a huge Ecto one now. Would make a nice companion piece. All yours for the low price of $199.99. I found the undercover Lego salesman. Back in high school I was about to go on my first ever date and I made extra money to make sure I had enough. Around $600 I had. The day before our date she gave me a letter and she basically broke up with me. Being a teenager I had no control over my emotions, as being brought up in my family would say guys shouldn't cry over anything, but I had no way to process it. So after school I went to 7-Eleven, bought 2 large Slurpees, 6 hot dogs and got a prepaid card and bought a bunch of Nika action figures. I actually had a good weekend because I honestly splurged on that money and got into action figure collecting as well practiced stop motion, which ended up helping me to pursue an animation career, and I'm about to finish and ready to apply to stop motion studios. This may not feel like much to some, but it was important for me. I got divorced in my late 20s and I bought an eHarmony subscription to help me date again. This was before free apps were a thing. It was way more money than I could afford at the time. But it helped me realize that I was wanted and people would be happy to get to know me and date me. It helped me move on from an emotionally abusive situation to repair my sense of self-worth. I just paid our full $8K healthcare deductible to send my wife to rehab. We're getting divorced and my lawyer told me I didn't have to pay for it, but she wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. $8K is a small price to pay for her hopeful sobriety and treatment of her mental health issues. I spent $56,000 on college for a degree I don't use, but I met my husband there, so I really can't complain. If I divide that over the nearly 25 years we've been married and consider that he's the best of dudes, it is a pretty good deal. Same here for my masters. The subject was pretty broad and it hasn't really led me directly into a career. But I got to study in 3 countries, learn a language and meet a bunch of cool people. It's given me a new perspective on the possibilities in life that will never go away. At a home inspector's recommendation, I had 2 sump pumps installed in our home's basement in case of water penetration. It was expensive not only to buy the sump pumps, but also to have the pump pits drilled and electric service supplied. Year after year, those pumps have never kicked in. But they are there, ready to go. Just in case, you'll be praising your old self like never before the first time you hear them kick on. A business class ticket on a 14-hour flight. I ate great food and slept like a boss. Made a huge difference to my trip as I didn't need to waste a day to recover. We needed to reschedule the last flight we took, and the only way to sit together, 2 kids, 2 adults, was upgrade to economy plus. It was about $20 seat, and I told my wife we're never flying regular economy again, even on a 2-3 hour flight. That extra legroom is so nice. I felt very cheated the first time I went to economy plus. Over the full traveling for work, election stuff, I flew American, a few hour flight, paid an extra $33 for the extra legroom, and literally couldn't tell the difference. It was an extra inch at most. The seat was the same width. I knew that because the aisle was the same width. No snacks because of COVID. Real waste of money. I'll just spend that on a bag of the white Toblerones in the airport and continue to quietly suffer in coach. If you can afford it, it really is worth it. Pretend it costs 2x your normal ticket. So a $800 ticket is $1,600. If you end up needing a data nap refresh at your destination, then you're effectively paying for an extra day night of the trip. Sometimes that's cheaper than the hotel parking expenses you're paying by being there an extra day. Is this where they bring you the hot towel and it smells like lemons? This may not seem like a lot of money to some, but I weighted 287 pounds. I lost 100 pounds and my reward was a 300.00 pair of fry boots. I had been drooling over them for years and finally scrimped and saved to buy them. I told my husband it was my food money. Lol. It was actually my cigarette money. I had quit smoking a year before that but still faithfully put away 7.00 a day. I figured that I could always find cigarette money when I smoked, so I will keep finding it to save. I bought a Nintendo Wii that way too. I have never regretted using those boots. I love them. Let me add a note. I had help losing the weight. I had lap band surgery, which in of itself is another struggle. The weight came off pretty fast and now it's a bit of a struggle to keep it off. My greatest fear is gaining it back. I have a couple of sisters that had gastric bypass and gained their weight back, so that terrifies me. I am still about a size 14, which to me is healthy. I'm happy with that. Friend spent $30 on a jukebox to play I Whip My Hair back and forth on loop for an hour in a bar. The bartender unplugged the machine. You can download the TouchTunes app and pay to play songs at bars in a radius of your location. There's a club nearby that I sometimes put Let It Go from Frozen on at 1130 at night. Another song I throw in rotation is My Dingailing. I had a friend do something similar, except it was Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. People were getting super pissed. A friend of mine did the same thing but with Revolution number 9 on repeat. which is just super weird and trippy and really long. But not exactly music. The owner unplugged the machine and plugged it back in, causing it to completely restart from the beginning. It's not unusual. What's new PSY Cat?